Outie Helly struggles as she's trapped in the elevator with a noose around her neck. When the elevator reaches the top, she's still struggling, and the security guard, Judd, is absent from his desk. Mark checks on Dylan, who's still reading the UUR, and asks if Helly has left. Dylan confirms. Mark tells him to leave as well. When Mark reaches the elevator, Mr. Grainer runs to him. The elevator door opens, and Mark sees Helly hanging there. He immediately grabs her and calls for help. Grainer arrives, and they manage to get her down. Grainer orders Mark into the elevator while Helly, barely conscious, lies on the floor. As Mark goes up, his consciousness shifts. He says goodnight to Judd, who is just returning to his desk, and heads out. The next day, Mark returns to work. In the elevator, his consciousness shifts again back to Mark, still reacting to finding Helly. When he exits, Milchick and Ms. Coble inform him that Helly is in the hospital but will be fine and back to work soon. Mark goes to the bathroom and reads the UUR in peace. Grainer hands Petey's chip back to Ms. Coble, confirming Petey was reintegrated. Grainer realizes Coble hasn't told the board about what happened with Helly, and Coble asks him to find out who's responsible for Petey's reintegration. Mark receives urgent messages from Rickon. Devon is in labor. He rushes to the labor retreat. Mark finds midwife Alexa, who tells him there's still time before the baby comes. Inside, Rickon is emotional, and Devon is having contractions. They talk about the baby's name. Rickon shares a secret. He's hurt that Mark never thanked him for the book. Mark claims it must have been stolen. Devon steps out for coffee, and Mark helps Rickon set up by hanging kelp. Meanwhile, Devon meets a pregnant woman, Gabby, who's also dealing with her own struggles. Rickon and Mark continue their task. Rickon expresses that the book Thief will likely improve after reading it, and he appreciates Mark's support. He suggests naming the baby girl, Gemma, as a tribute to Mark's late wife. Mark disagrees, believing the baby should have her own name. As Rickon sleeps, Devon returns, and the two share coffee. Another contraction hits Devon, and Mark offers his hand. As she screams in pain, Mark rushes to find Alexa. The baby is born. Mark sits by the lake, and Petey's phone rings, showing a blocked number. Mark remembers Petey's collapse outside the gas station. Back at work, Milchick explains to Mark that this will be Helly's first conscious experience since the hanging. Mark greets her with kind eyes. Helly doesn't respond and walks off. Irving suggests leaving inspirational quotes for Helly, while Dylan thinks she just needs to earn perks. Mark, distracted, sneaks a look at Rickon's book. Ms. Casey arrives to watch over Helly and take notes on her behavior. Helly picks at her eyelashes, and Ms. Casey quietly observes. The numbers on Irving's computer blur as black ooze drips from the ceiling. It stops as quickly as it started, and Irving leaves to seek Bert's counsel. Irving finds disturbing paintings at the photocopier, showing OND workers attacking macrodata workers. Milchick assures him it didn't happen. Irving and Dylan discuss in private, trying to figure out if it's proof that OND is evil. Milchick reports to Ms. Coble about his actions with Irving. Coble is working on a new plan with Ms. Casey to monitor Helly closely. In the bathroom, Helly examines the marks on her neck. Ms. Casey asks her to describe her time there, but Helly doesn't respond. Mark, trying to distract from the tension, spills his coffee on notepads. Ms. Casey leaves and tells Helly she's heading to distribution and supply. Mark offers to take her instead, and they walk down the hall. Ms. Casey walks past a conference room where Bert is pacing, talking to himself. Mark and Helly continue their walk down dark hallways. Helly confesses that her outie self told her she's not a person. Mark encourages her to focus on her own desires. Helly, however, wants her outie to wake up dead so she can know who's responsible. They hear what sounds like a baby crying and follow it down the hallway. It turns out to be a baby goat. They follow it into a room with a man feeding baby goats. He orders them to leave, warning it's not yet time. Meanwhile, Irving and Dylan deal with Bert. Irving confronts him, asking why he lied about the number of people in their department. Bert deflects with a bizarre joke about macrodata workers having larval pouches. Dylan questions if Irving has feelings for Bert, and Irving brushes it off. They return to OND, where they discover a different version of the painting, showing macrodata workers in place of OND workers. Mark and Helly continue through the dark halls. Helly wonders if the goats are connected to the numbers. Mark apologizes for not being able to do more, but he's glad she's here. They get caught by Ms. Casey, who takes them back to the office. Grainer warns Ms. Coble about the MDR team's growing curiosity. In the back room, Bert introduces Irving and Dylan to the vast optics and design team, further blurring the lines between what's real and what's not.